Greetings, upstanders. Dr. O here. And many folks who are out there in the media and who are analysts, they need to be very mindful about the language that they're using as it relates to Stephen Miller's CNN interview and his use of the term plenary authority. This is a man who's very careful with his words. I mean, he spends so much time talking and quoting Nazi propaganda that he's somebody who has studied history and knows the words really well. So when people say, he mistakenly said, or it was a slip of the tongue when he used the term plenary authority, no. His mistake, quote unquote, was saying the quiet part out loud. He didn't want everybody else to hear what he and the president actually think, and that they have the ability to be a full authoritarian and a tyrant. Most folks don't know what the term plenary authority means. I'm somebody who had to go look it up myself, and Cornell University's Legal Information Institute, they define it as, quote, power that is wide ranging, broadly construed, and often limitless for all practical purposes. That's what it means, according to Cornell. Power that is wide ranging, broadly construed, and often limitless for all practical purposes. And, Stephen Miller abruptly stops talking. You ever see him do that anywhere? You ever see him freeze? And CNN talks about, a different feed started playing in his head and so on and so forth. Given the way that CNN and Sanchez as well has been kind of caping for Trump and defending the administration on some things as of late. Well, they've always had people like Scott Jennings in the world, but you see that their news feeds are trying to change as they try to be a little bit more Fox-like. This was not a mistake in terms of him saying what he said. It's about him saying it out loud. And this needs to be, if you just look at Trump's actions, this is obvious. This is obvious what they want. They are using executive orders. They're using these fake police. They're using everything they can to try to get as much power as possible. When you listen to people like Tim Snyder, when you listen to people like Ruth Ben-Ghiat, people who are experts on authoritarianism and this big man ideology and the like, they are saying that they have never seen an attempt to consolidate power happen this fast. And they look at everybody, Orban, they look at other historical figures and the like. And the fact that people want to give Stephen Miller the benefit of the doubt, Stephen Miller, of all people, who does not deserve the benefit of the doubt, a man who was quoting Nazi propaganda, Joseph Goebbels, Hitler's propaganda representative and secretary at Kirk's memorial service. You have nothing, you make nothing, all of that. That's where he gets it all from. This man has, unlike Trump, has actually read the Constitution. This man understands laws. He understands policies. That's why so many people say that this is the guy who's really in charge. How many of y'all can name me the last 5 deputy chief of staffs for the United States government? How many of y'all can name me one off the top of your head besides Stephen Miller? Deputy, not chief of staff, deputy chief of staff. This guy knows his stuff. And his only slip was, again, saying the quiet part out loud. He and the Trump administration want to rule everything. They want to dominate everything. And the media and those who interview him can't keep playing these games with him. Now, we know he's going to go on Fox and he's going to go on these other places and not be asked about it. We know he's going to get up there and lie about the fact that people can walk down the street holding their, with their purses in Washington, D.C. now and all of that other type of stuff. And he's going to use more Hitlerian language. I mean, is it Stephen Miller or is it Stephen Hitler at the end of the day? This guy is destructive for America. And he's under a destructive president. And it's high time that those in the media actually start calling him out for who he is and what he is actually doing and saying. As Rachel Maddow says all the time, don't just go by what they say, go by what they do. And look at what he's doing every single day. And realize that when he used that term plenary authority, a term that, like I said, most people would never have heard of, and sure many people who probably study like law and constitution or whatever had to go back and do a quick check just to make sure they heard the right thing and understood the definition. This is who he is, and CNN was part of the cover up and trying. And when they came back, they didn't even go back to that particular issue. That was just media. Man, it's very frustrating. Because we're watching it happen in real time. It's happening right in front of our eyes. People are playing in front of our faces and expecting us to really believe what they're actually saying and doing. And we need to hold them accountable. We need to hold CNN accountable for not following up with deeper questions. As the late Joe Madison said, when you're doing an interview, your next question always depends on the last answer. You don't just rush through stuff so you can get through the time period that you have. Stephen Miller, Trump, Vance, all of these guys are dangerous. They want authoritarian rule, and they're exercising it daily. do not believe the Washington Post when they say democracy dies in darkness. It dies right in the light of day, just like it's happening in front of us right now. And it's only going to continue to die with more complacency on our part. Let me know what you all think. Hit that like, subscribe. Please feel free to share. Let's get to those 25,000 subscribers, you all. And let me know what y'all think, because we got to continue to upstand and not be bystanders to the demise of this democratic experiment. And I hope that you're with me on that as well. Peace.